Hello and welcome to Good Business Pays TV, where we interview what we call the fast payers. Today we're lucky to have with us two executives from Sony Music Entertainment with us to tell their story. And we're welcoming Chris Crellin, who is the Chief Financial Officer, and Tony Walledge, who is Head of Finance Operations, both from Sony Music Entertainment in the UK and Ireland. Welcome to you both, and thank you for sharing your story with us today. Let me start with you, Chris. Can you tell us a little bit about the business, the overview of the business, and your role within it?
Okay, so I have recently been promoted to Chief Financial Officer. However, I've been with Sony Music for just over 12 years now. Sony Music UK and Ireland, which is the area I look after, is part of the overall Sony Music Group. We are a global recorded music and publishing company. We represent a vast global catalogue, and we are comprised of many labels across all genres of music, ranging from rock, pop, classical, hip hop, R&B. And you may be familiar with some of our current artists from the UK, which include Harry Styles, Adele, George Ezra, Cat Burns, and Calvin Harris.
Fantastic, and congratulations on the promotion
Thank
as
you.
well. Tony, now you lead the finance operation for Sony Music Entertainment. What does that mean? Tell us about your role and what it entails.
I'm the head of finance operations here at Sony Music UK. That involves managing the treasury, receivables, and payables departments. My role also includes providing finance system support for the internal business. Helping them to use the purchasing systems, as well as working with IT to ensure any system faults are fixed or any enhancements implemented. I've been here 15 years actually. I've been here a long time too.
Fantastic. Now, Chris, you'll remember that Sony Music Entertainment was a winner of our Fast Payer Awards. I think a staggering, if I got my figures right, 97% of invoices are paid within 30 days, with an average of around 13 days, I think, at the last report, which is pretty staggering. Why is this important to your organization? Why is paying fast important? Wouldn't it just be easier to hold on to the cash?
Look, Sony Music engages with a lot of self-employed people. I think that's 70% of our engagement with those that are self-employed, because we rely on a lot of external suppliers to provide support for our artists that we need. And obviously getting artists to market and successful is what we're here to do. And we know how important it is to those people, those sole traders, who work in, they're stylists, video creators, online influencers, session musicians. We know how important cash flow is to them. And I suppose I started my journey at Sony Music being head of finance for RCA. So I've worked my way up through the labels up to where I am now. And I know the importance to those, I've had that touch point of knowing firsthand how important it is to make sure those people are paid on time. Because you want to have a happy community that you're working and engaging with. And as I said, we're trying to do everything we can to support our artists' success, and those people are part of that success. And we want to keep them happy on that journey.
And Tony, a similar question to you, because you've got to make this happen. That's a strategic imperative there. But how do you run a finance organization and make all of that happen so well?
There's a few areas to sort of touch on that really. I think what's important from the payables perspective initially is that the supplier set up. Obviously, like supplier bank account verification in the first instance is vital. With online fraud very much prevalent, it's essential we ensure that the correct suppliers getting their money. We're also ensuring that we clearly inform these suppliers of our mandatory billing requirements. So, VAT numbers, purchase order numbers being stated on invoices. And of course, then with the suppliers, you've got to make sure that their correct data is inputted in the payment systems accurately. Obviously, the payment terms and bank details need to be correct. So, here at Sony, we ensure that they're double checked by a manager before being approved. I suppose another key area, sorry, with making it all happen is the invoice processing team, and then how they deal with any related queries. So, at Sony Music UK, we have a very experienced invoice processing team in place. We receive approximately 250 supplier invoices daily. So it's important that we're monitoring the invoice processing performance to ensure that that flow of payments is not impeded by backlogs. If, for example, within that invoice processing, you've also got then the approvals. So, once the valid invoices have been booked into the system, we'll then be sending emails to the internal business. And if they're not improved immediately, then we have regular follow-up notifications, just to make sure that approval comes down the line. As for the queries side, then we ensure that any that arise are dealt with immediately. So if, for example, mandatory billing information is missing, we'll go back to the supplier straight away to get a corrected invoice. If there are any variances on price, then, for example, we will then notify the internal business in the first instance. That, we find it more efficient for them to resolve these queries directly with their commercial partners. And then, of course, all queries are then regularly followed up just to ensure that the payment delays are minimised. I suppose another key area, really, the payment runs and cash forecasting. So we have 3 BACS runs a week, and also make same-day payments for any invoices that may have been delayed due to queries. I think, obviously, then it's important to ensure that there are no delays to payment via shortage of cash in the bank. So we're monitoring our bank balances and any forecasted cash movements on a daily basis. So that's really important. I think the last point, really, in terms of how making it work is to just touch upon systems. There's continuous system support to the business in place. So, not only do we work closely with IT to ensure that, any system faults that are identified are fixed as quickly as possible, but, we also have support inboxes where the internal business can communicate any system issues that they find, or just reach out to us for any training needs. I suppose the other point I think is important in terms of systems is that, it's vital that the correct approval rules are in place in the purchasing system. So our people experience team communicate any employee leavers or starters or any internal changes to us as they happen for us to update.
It feels like a couple of observations. Number one is you've both been at the organisation for a fair while, so having that experience across the business and sort of growing up through the business and knowing how all the pieces fit together seems like quite an important thing, because it's a very complicated set of actions and things going on there. But Chris, do you find that it's easy to get other parts of the organisation on board, if you want to say the right word? Because obviously other people and other parts of the organisation have to be part of this conversation.
Yeah.
How do you get others on board, or is it part of the culture?
I mean, it's definitely part of the culture. I mean, as I referenced, we are an artist-first business. Our sole job really is to engage with artists and help them grow and develop and take them, to be global megastars. That's, we are fully committed to making that, that success for them by joining us. And what we all have to do, and the whole leadership team here is well aware, is that we don't want any steps in that process hindered by the fact that we're not paying our suppliers, on time. And as I said, it comes down very early when you a stylist on a video, you want those people to be engaged and supported, and we're all very aware of what we need to do to be able to make sure that they are happy and pleased to work with us, and then they are part of that success for that artist going forward.
it's a truly focused, customer focused business in all directions, isn't it? I suppose.
Absolutely. Okay.
So Tony, for other organisations that want to pay fast like you all do, what are your sort of top tips for them in terms of needing to get things right? What are the absolute things they need to get right?
Yeah, I suppose the first tip really, and this is very important, I think, is that it's very beneficial to have a settled, experienced, and happy payables team in place. Who not only know the business processes well, but have good communication with the internal business, and then have a proactive attitude to query resolution. A happy team working through their work every day, it helps the process immensely. Another tip, I think, it's important, I think, for me that the internal business know the payables process as well. I think it's vital that they know when the backs runs are, for example, that they know what the supplier setup and mandatory billing requirements are, and how to delegate their approvals, say, when they're out of office. So this helps them to support a lot of these self-employed suppliers who may be using frequently, supporting an artist, for example, who may just have one release a year or one tour a year. These details as well we have on our intranet, and then also any new starters are guided to this information during their induction. I suppose as a final tip, really, it kind of involves data analysis. I think here we find it very helpful to look at invoice and purchase order volumes regularly, just to make sure we have enough staff to cover the workloads. And also we use invoice processing data to identify any bottlenecks and then try to take the appropriate action to resolve them. So, for example, if we identified repeated approval delays, say with a particular employee, is it that they need more training, perhaps? And if so, then we can kind of help from there.
Thank you. And finally, to you, Chris, do you have any sort of thoughts or tips for other sort of boards, CFOs who might want to improve payment terms in their organizations, things they have to get right or important things they have to consider?
I think it's important to, as I think Tony alluded to have a strong finance team to be able to support the process. It definitely helps. I think, as you referenced, we've been here a long time. We know what the business needs, and we support a very good culture within our finance team to, they are part of the business. They're not just sitting in a back office hiding away. They're very aware of what's going on day to day. So it's very key that they're an important part of the process. So sort of, involved with the business. And we are a human people business. Most of the touch points we have are person to person, if that makes sense. And so it's important that you're engaging the right way. And, finance in terms of the support we provide our artists and labels is integral to the whole way that the process works. So I think it's just being very, making sure you've got a great team in place and that you're engaged with, what your business is doing.
Well, Chris and Tony, thank you very much for joining us today. That's the end of the conversation. And thank you again on behalf of the small businesses of the UK to Sony Music Entertainment, UK and Ireland, fast payers, and I hope you will be again this year. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.